Ladies and gentlemen, maybe you're watching the final games of the NHL season unfolding. Maybe you're watching a little baseball. Maybe you're still trying to figure out how to do those taxes at the last minute. Or maybe you're watching Raw right now and Cody Rhodes is speaking. But you know what? Forget about American Nightmares. We've got on a psychotic freak who's going to talk about all things related to legendary backyard wrestling and their latest season that has just started a few weeks ago. And they're getting ready for another huge show, the big first premium show of the year. And our guest has got a lot to talk about. He's got a lot to get off his chest. And some of it might be scary. Some might be pretty mean. Some might be a little bit of dose of PBS. And maybe even we'll talk about some scores that he's going to try and settle tonight. And maybe that involves a championship shot that he just had a few short weeks ago. Our guest needs no further introduction, but because if you look at the size of him, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see some of his in-ring capabilities. But also considering so many of his peers and LBYW have gotten that introduction in the past, like the Alpha CJ Junt, like the current general manager Chris Aruda, the former U.S. champion Ragnarok, the brand new U.S. champion Napalm, and maybe even a man that he has continued to feud with, which seems like for over and over and over, the Welster. It's time to give him that introduction that they've all gotten, and we're in prime time on Monday night, so let's get right to it here. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sportzwire board, number one. Sports show for legendary backyard wrestling. Simply put, his name is the Psychotic How are you?
I'm doing good.
Definitely, you don't get that every day in LBYW.
I don't. No, I don't.
And I don't think the Wilster is going to give that to you anytime soon.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. He won't.
Well, first of all, it's an absolute treat to have you. This has definitely been one. As a matter of fact, I think we were supposed to actually do this interview about 8 or 9 months ago because I just checked my receipts and I was like, we were supposed to do this 1 month ago, but I think when you caught me, I literally had a virus that I couldn't shake for a whole month, but I got no more viruses when you are certainly no freak on a leash anymore, to quote Korn, but the Psychotic Freak. It is an absolute honor to have you. And there is a lot to talk about. There is a lot to unfold and unpack here, especially on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. But right. Psychotic Freak, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, let's start from the top and recap a huge victory at LBYW 43 over the newly arrived Scary Terry, who was handpicked from none other than the legendary backyard wrestling general manager himself, Chris Aruda. Talk about the win and talk about how big it is going into Golden Ticket.
I think that is a big win for momentum purposes. Maybe Chris puts me in the match. Maybe. But yeah, it's a big win for a momentum push for me.
Okay, big win, especially after the previous show, and especially the size of Scary Terry. Scary Terry's a guy that obviously is one of the few guys in LBYW that not only matches up with you mano a mano, and he might even have the size advantage. So, I mean, that had to have concerned you going into this match. And we're actually going to put the match up here shortly
Okay.
so we can kind of go and recap it and kind of go from everywhere else afterwards. But maybe talk about how you were able to deal with the size advantage that he had and somebody that actually, for a change, was going toe to toe with you.
Yeah, he is definitely a taller man. Um, I, it's tough to bring someone down of that size. I mean, take it when I took on Showtime, kind of the same thing. Showtime was a much bigger. You just gotta go low and take them down out from the knees.
When it came to your strategy in a match like this, obviously you're used to basically always, for the most part, having the size advantage. And especially after what happened the previous week, I mean, did you have to change strategies here in order to get the victory?
Yeah, especially of an opponent that was not in LBYW that was just thrown in there. Definitely
Yeah, the
have
prior week we saw Ruda introduce him. I mean, he was at the end of 42, and he's a part of the roster now. So that obviously you can't really prepare and plan for something like that.
no, you can't prepare. Like if someone was facing Nate Dogg or the Wilster or CJ, I can prepare for what they're going to do in the rain. Unlike Scary Terry, I have no idea what he's going to do.
Absolutely, no question about that. We're going to put the screen up here in a few minutes, and we'll go over some of the match. And we want to say hello to everybody out there. And if you want to follow Legendary Backyard Wrestling, here are some links, and definitely join them. They're closing in on 1,500 subscribers, so make sure you support them. How important was it here also for you to get a W, especially with the season still so young? And you've obviously got a lot of scores to settle, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about in a little while. But how big was it for you to start the season on the right foot here, getting a big win?
I think it's a big step. I have a lot to unpack this season, especially after finishing this season last year, getting screwed over at Hellfest by Showtime, losing the Interstate after I just won it. That is the big thing that I am trying to go after is the Interstate title, and maybe more, maybe more. Um, it's yeah.
And obviously, speaking about the Interstate Championship for a second, obviously, we spoke a little bit about you when it came to the match against Napalm, who's the new U.S. champion. So obviously, you had to be seeing that. We'll talk about that maybe in a few minutes. But, what did it mean to you to hold the Interstate Championship last year? What did it mean to you to be the champion? Obviously, just recapping that for a second.
It was never about winning the championship. It was always about ending Will. And then I obviously beat Will after putting him through a table. Even if it was for 5 minutes, I won that match. I was excited to win that championship, and then what happened. Showtime came in and ended that title reign within a few minutes.
How much have you thought about that?
Every now and then I still think about it. Kind of pisses me off. Well, I still want at PBS's throats.
Oh, well, I mean, and the Wolster spoke a lot about you here because he was here last year. And as a matter of fact, he was here last summer. And, I think also it's important for you to have gotten a win here last week. Also, in the fact we spoke about you, I think it was last month when Napalm was here, and you actually won that triple threat match. And you were able to get a victory there. And Napalm's the U.S. champion. So obviously, you also got to look at it from the back of your mind in that getting a victory here also helps you because you technically do have a win against somebody who's one of the current new champions and also somebody who still, as a matter of fact, hasn't been pinned or forced to submit, even though he was in the match. He did not win, or he did not was forced to be pinned or submitted. So how big is that also for you to have another notch on your belt of a victory, especially earlier in the year, as we saw, where you had the victory in the triple threat match with Napalm, who's the new U.S. champion? Talk about that.
I think that is a huge win. As we talked earlier, momentum. Momentum is everything in wrestling.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's just in wrestling. I think it's other sports as well, but wrestling.
I think it's everything in general in life. If you look at everything in life, right? I'm always a believer in karma. I'm always a believer in, synergy, right? So obviously you getting a win to kind of unofficially kick off the season in a match with Napalm, who obviously is the only man to have ever made CJ the Alpha Junt, submit, and he's the new U.S. champion. And then you top it off here. We'll certainly get to in the middle of that in a little while, but you also have a victory over a guy who was handpicked by the current general manager, who's, oh, by the way, in the Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame. So you've got those two things under your belt, and I think that continues to at least give you the momentum that you desire to have a big season coming up.
That's right. I 100% agree with you on that. If I could win, maybe I could win a title. Maybe I could win the ladder match. If I'm in that, maybe I could win a world title down the line. It's all that. So it's the domino effect.
Well, let me ask you about the ladder match. We were speaking a little bit off the air, and you get a victory over Scary Terry, and I'm going to put the match up here in a few minutes, but you get a victory over him. But Chris Aruda goes and still handpicks him to be in the golden ticket ladder match after you just defeated him in the main event of LBYW 43. How did that make you feel?
I kind of laughed at it.
Why?
Because I thought it was funny to me because I beat him, and I don't think he necessarily deserved it, but he did put up a good fight nonetheless. So I kind of found that funny that I beat him, and we're just going to throw him in there.
Do you feel that Aruda disrespected you in any way?
I feel like Aruda has always disrespected me.
And tell us why for the audience.
Well, we go back. He was going to.
You had an interesting history with him, sure.
I got a history. I beat him for the U.S. title at Haunted Hellfest 1. Beat him. Mm-hmm. And then he beat me for the U.S. title, quote unquote retirement match. Then he comes back like 1,000 times.
Yeah, but obviously, he basically covered that whole story. Sure, absolutely.
So I have a history with Chris Aruda.
So do you think then, are you telling us, for those that are listening and watching on Sportzwire Radio, that Chris Aruda, our general manager, had a bias there where even though maybe he's had his own issues with other people, but he handpicks Scary Terry and puts him in the ladder match, even though you defeated Scary Terry, but he showed maybe that he couldn't be impartial and put his personal bias against you and didn't make you the first person to be in that, especially after you beat the guy that he just announced as the first person, where he basically couldn't put the past behind him and kind of do what was really should have been and putting you in there first. Is that how you feel and what you're telling us?
Yeah, I absolutely believe I should have been the handpicked first guy into the ladder match.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Let me get to a bunch of comments here because people want to say hello. Management is here, so certainly management. Want to give them a big shout out. Legendary Backyard Wrestling's own the Psychotic Freak. Thank you for saying that. Want to say hello. Thank you. Yes, we know who you are, and thank you for tuning in with us. And want to say hello to one of our Hall of Famers here, who is the only general manager in the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame, Mr. Hillbilly Tool. I always say his quote I live by, and I quote at every show. He says, "True wrestlers who do it here do it for the love of this sport." So whether you're in the backyard, the pros, the underground, everything else in between, we're all doing it for those reasons, and especially Psychotic Freak and our friends at LBYW. And yes, thank you for enjoying my introduction. I'm glad that people seem to like those, and I believe that this is the general manager. Now, before I get to the general manager, I want to also say hello to one of our buddies, Mr. Levi McDaniel, another front office person over in the IMF, and they have a lot of great things they're also working on. But seeing that Mr. Aruda is here, before I go into the most recent match that you had, anything you want to say to Mr. Aruda?
I think that he's done a terrible job as GM.
Why? Tell us why. Why do you say that?
He's not that good. He just does what he wants, and he pisses everyone off. And he's not that good of a manager.
So do you think that that's going to hurt the company right now as we're starting out the season, that we have somebody that, let's just put it this way, needs on-the-job training and may never get the hang of the job? It's kind of like if you're a sports fan, right? And sometimes you have great players that try to transition into coaching, and a lot of times it doesn't work. I mean, Wayne Gretzky, for example, was the greatest hockey player of all time, and he tried to be a head coach famously for the soon-to-be former Arizona Coyotes, and that didn't work. I mean, you can go up and down those. Isaiah Thomas in the NBA famously coached the New York Knicks. I mean, it was a forgettable situation. So if you go up and down the history of great athletes who try to transition into wind-up coaching, it doesn't work out more often than not. I mean, I could probably bring up countless other examples of great players, and Chris Arruda, no question, was a great wrestler. He
Yeah.
was somebody that did a lot in this sport. He put his body on the line. He's a Hall of Famer. But from what you're telling us, he's not doing a good job, and
No.
maybe he should certainly find something else to do, is what you're telling us?
I think he'd be better off playing Monopoly or something.
Or maybe he could have gave the 49ers a little more advice to have defeated Travis.
That's probably true. Yeah.
I think I was rooting for the 49ers, actually, because I really can't stand this whole Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce thing. But that's a different conversation for a different time. We have like 30-something people watching us right now, and they're like, what did you just say? But Mr. Arruda would like to respond. He says, I always have a plan, just got to be patient. I wanted to see what our new guy had. But the new guy didn't have enough because you beat the new guy, no?
I beat him pretty. Yeah.
So what do you make of that then?
I still think that's a bunch of baloney because I still beat him. I don't think you should have put him in the ladder match, but yeah, I think that's just funny. Okay.
Do you think that hurts LBYW in that we have a general manager that is obviously still finding his way around the position, and that could certainly maybe not only hurt you, because obviously you've got quite a history at Mr. Arruda, but maybe even others?
Yeah, I think it could. I think Anthony was a better GM than Chris ever will be.
Well, Anthony speaks for itself. We're talking about Anthony Arias. He's obviously the saint of backyard wrestling. Anthony Arias, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's a household name. He's going to know how to be able to work with people. He's going to know how people tick. And, Chris Arruda, God bless Chris Arruda. I've had Chris Arruda on a few times, and, Chris Arruda is no Anthony Arias. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say from what you're telling us.
Anthony brought me back until LBYW. Chris didn't want me back. I mean,
well, you basically said it's personal biased.
That's right. That's you just think he favoritism. That's what he wants.
Nepotism is the true word from, but Mr. Arruda also would like to say something else. And he would say, I put him in to see where his skill set is at compared to the rest of our roster. But it is a bizarre point that Scary Terry's the first person in the ladder match, and he didn't win the match. No. Usually you put somebody in.
He got pinned 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, and also management. This is a big topic right now. Management of LBYW's chimed in. Our trust with DM Arruda is sky high, just as it was with previous general managers such as Anthony Arias and the man that you certainly have no love for in the Wilster. So
no, hold on. You put high regards with Anthony Ayers and the Wilster. Okay, Wilster put me through hell as the GM.
You're still dealing with the Wilster.
Yeah, I am. No, I'm not putting Wilster and Anthony in the same conversation. I believe Wilster belongs in the basement. I'll put Chris above Will, but.
So Wellstorp needs to belong in the old folks' home. Arruda probably, in sports terms, just got a vote of confidence just now and is on the hot seat. And Arias obviously speaks for himself, and he's obviously a legend. And you'd probably like to see Arias back because
I would.
Okay, well, that's fair. I mean, obviously, that's fair. And if you want to follow legendary backyard wrestling, I've got a couple of ways that you can do that here. First of all, if you'd like to support legendary backyard wrestling, you can do it right here because we have a new share our screen. So you can do that here. So you can do that in a couple of different links. I'm going to take this off the screen and pull this back onto the screen because we're going to actually go down memory lane here. But you have all great stuff here ahead. You've got a number of different things that you want to check out. And we're actually going to go right now and check out the match itself. So here we go. It's a one-on-one bout. It's Psychotic freaking Scary Terry. And hopefully you've watched this match before, but I'm going to play it for a few minutes and we'll certainly go over it and see what is about to come. And obviously also I want to say hello to a few other people while we do that. The It Factor Cyrus, also in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He is one of our favorites in DBW, Dominant Breakout Wrestling. And also Mr. Arruda wants to say, thank you, Freak needs patience. His day will come. We'll certainly find out. Anthony Arias just lost a shot at the FBW title. Yes, I did see that because he gave me the match and and I watched some of it. I can't watch every single Anthony Arias match, but I am certainly up to date. I appreciate that. So obviously, we see you coming out there, and you certainly seem upset. And obviously, you did what you did just before, and I'll kind of skip to the entrances here shortly. But there you are, and you're smiling there, and you've certainly got a rather psychotic look here onto you, and you're certainly getting ready to step into the ring and step into that LBYW ring, and you are certainly getting ready, and you don't need no ladder to jump on. You're going to take those shoes off and get ready to rock and roll, and certainly
So
put some pedal to the metal here. And we see, oh boy, arguing with our senior official here. I don't know if that's the move here, but obviously you know the situation better than anybody else. But obviously we are waiting for a man that speaks for himself. He is Scary Terry, and he's nodding, and he's got his hands in his pocket. He looks like he might be just coming off a rest stop. He's a truck driver, and he is certainly not delivering goods to your local restaurant. He is getting ready to step into the ring in a battle of two LBYW giants, and we're going to certainly see him come into the ring, and he is now pointing at, and boy, listen, I would just say if I'm anybody here, just get out of these two guys' way, and we're going to certainly do a little bit of calling on commentary because that's what we like to do on Sportswire Radio. But there you go, boy, what a fist. I mean, you had to go into the offense here real quick, and you definitely wound up doing that, and there you go. You're waiting for more offense, and boy, you're just going right at him here. You are just in no care in the world, but now you're down, and Scary Terry is looking at you. This could be any, bar fight here in North Dakota, and it looks like you're about to be taken down further, kind of in a reverse suplex of some sort of suplex slam, and yeah, that's not going to do it there. We're waiting for the obviously our referee here is continues. We've had a lot of problems with the refereeing here, in LBYW. Refahito, I got to be honest. I feel like every show he's a topic. I mean, I don't know. Boy, was that a open closed fist shot? It almost looked like an open turkey club shot. I mean, almost like an open turkey club at a restaurant. You basically gave him an open turkey club shot here, and you're about to get him in some type. You're trying for a crossface. You're trying to apply something here, but you're getting into a submission hold with Scary Terry, and Scary Terry's got nowhere to go, but he's a big man, and you can't count him out just yet. And if you're here live on Sportswire Radio, hit that sub button for us at 6579. And also, if you have a match out there you want me to call, I'll do it for you also. And we are here in the main event of Legendary Backyard Wrestling, North Dakota's premier backyard wrestling company. And you can see here the guys are certainly banging it out. And yeah, Refahito needs new glasses. He might need to go to referee school. I mean, with all due respect, Refahito's got to work on those counts. And
we've been saying that for a long time. He can't count. It's a very slow
You might
count.
have to find somebody else. Maybe you have to maybe pay people, maybe Scabs. I don't know what it is, but you got some type of choke slam there. And I think what's interesting here is Scary Terry is actually he's outmaneuvering you. He's certainly more bigger than you, and he's got some more power, and he's got some kind of ankle lock there, a little bit of a mini ankle lock.
As I mentioned earlier in the show, is my plan was to go after the knees, and that's kind of what he's doing, which I was unable to do.
And he just gave you an elbow to your left arm, your right arm actually. Excuse me, but obviously we see it. It looked like you tried for a punch, but again, another kind of open close shot. There you go. You connected there with the clothesline. Now that looked brutal. And 1, 2, and maybe a Hito's best count of the season here so far. But look at that replay. Look at that replay. I mean, that clothesline, anybody else would be dead from that, but Scary Terry is scary for a reason, and he gets right back up, and you got to find your way to get right back up on your feet because Scary Terry is about to do something to you. He just kind of grabs you and takes you down, and now you got to figure out what you got to do because Scary Terry's got the advantage because you're down, and he's up, kind of a reversal of what we saw in the triple threat match involving Napalm earlier in the year. So we'll certainly see how this unfolds, but Scary Terry's got the advantage, and it looks like he's got
I feel like he had the advantage for most of the match. I think I just got lucky in a few moments where...
Was that because you weren't able to scout him, and that was also because you hadn't seen him? There's no tape on him. It's not like Nate Dogg. It's not like Aruda. It's not like anybody else that's wrestling. Gyro, whether it's Ragnarok, anybody else that's on the roster, Just Ice, you can't prepare for somebody like this. Is that kind of what's happening here in this match?
Yeah, that's pretty much, you nailed it. I didn't know what I was walking into.
Well, right now, it looks like you just were able to get out of something that would have prevented you from walking, and now you've kind of got a little bit of an advantage here. And Scary Terry is holding his head. You got to get back up. You got to work on him. You got him while he's down, and you tried something almost kind of almost a mini Superman punch, and you're gonna
Yep.
try maybe one more time, and another. Oh, but I think you kind of got it, but he was able to get out just enough in time to withstand that blow, but he tries for an elbow drop, and he looks like he missed it. He might have partially got you, but he's now working on those arms again, and I see it grabbing. It looks like your left arm this time, and Refahito's just standing there, and that's probably the best thing he can do right now between the two of you guys, and it looks like right now that at the end of the day, this is going to be a slobber knocker, as JR could say. This is a war. This is a real war between two giants, two heavy hitters, and you got some type of kick here. And also want to say hello to one of my buddies, Mr. D. Lockett. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope all is well, doing well. Well, I would say it's good evening now, but I definitely want to say hi to you, my friend, and definitely looking forward to some more coverage out there of all the great other companies. It's the Superman Club Freaks own, and obviously, management is enjoying that the match is being played. We got a lot of people watching right now, but you were kind of shaking your head. You're grimacing there, and you're kind of wondering, what does it take to put Scary Terry down? And it looks like now maybe you got him. It looks like you got something here, and you're trying for. Oh, I think you just. I don't know. Maybe you just couldn't get him up, but he's too big. He's too big for you, and that's what it is. You're having a lot of trouble with him right now, but you got that psychotic smile. Almost reminds me of a band Tesla had an album called Psychotic Supper. And you're about to give him something. You're about to put him into the guillotine. And it looks like this could be lights out. And boy, he is about to be down for the count. 1, 2. Woo!
Another slow count.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think that should have been over. That should have been all she wrote, but certainly it wasn't all she wrote there. But now you've got to figure out how we can get an advantage. And even Chris Arruda saying, we got to get new referees. I mean, anybody can listen. Maybe you should have automatic referees like robots. I think AI referees could do
like
better.
What MLB is thinking about doing.
You can't blame them. I mean, because everybody gets the balls and strikes wrong. Everybody gets the time of the game wrong. Everybody gets all different things down in baseball.
I didn't know where I was at that moment.
You look like you're dazed and confused, to quote Led Zeppelin, and certainly you're not going to be hearing Led Zeppelin in the background. You're about to get down for a count of 1, 2, and ooh, you know what? Refahito, not as slow as prior counts, but maybe that still helped you because it was slow enough that you were able to hang in there for just a little bit. Yep. Check that LBYW replay there, and you go right down for the count.
I almost split him in half. I mean,
well, if he would have split him in half, Chris Arruda's meal ticket would have certainly gone up in smoke, but you've gotten just right back up, and you have smiled at Scary Terry, and even Scary Terry is wondering, what can he do to put down the psychotic freak? And boom, you got some type of punch there, and to the side, and Superman punch, and he is down. Scary Terry is down, and Scary Terry is now seeing, all he's seeing is stars, and stomp. It looks like a curb stomp. Get him. And Refahito, what are you doing? 1, 2, and 3. He got him this time, but boy, Refahito, I mean, certainly, I think AI referees could be better. Scabs, and you got the win, though. Congratulations on that big victory. It was a hard-fought win. We wanted to play it live for the audience on Sportswire Radio so they get a chance to see what LBYW has to offer. And you were pointing, it looks like, to the audience there, and of course the crowd. And there we have it.
At the time, it was Will.
Well, you know what? You and the Wilster we're going to get to here. We're actually going to take this now off the screen, and we're going to go like this shortly. We're going to take this off. And now, watching that back, how did you feel about the win?
Looking back at it, I feel like he had the upper hand for most of the match. As we talked, I didn't know what I was walking into, and I think that's what it comes down to. But I had a couple moves that stopped him, and that's kind of
clothesline was certainly big. Superman punches, curb stomp. I mean, you did have moments in the match. You had a couple of submission holds. The ankle lock came to mind. You were trying some type of inverted crossface. You had like an inverted reverse suplex. I mean, there was some things you definitely did in the match that were able to hang in there. And, I guess you can look at it now that you're battle tested now. Getting a big win here, obviously having that win in the triple threat. And you got to be feeling good right now,
Yep.
at least with the victory. And for a brief period, erased kind of some of the things that happened to you at the end of the season, and also for that interstate championship. So obviously, those are things that you certainly want to pick up here. But my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. We are live on Sportswire Radio. And if you want to hit that sub button for us, we're at Sportswire Radio 6579. You also want to check out a new company that yours truly has a portion of. It's called the Pride Wrestling Federation. It was formerly owned by Atomic Titan, who is certainly a big name in the world of Tennessee backyard wrestling. He is their only Grand Slam champion, and I own a portion of that company. So if you're out there, make sure you hit that sub button for the Pride Wrestling Federation. Also, check us out here via the Listen Live button on sportswireradio.org. And I'm going to be back here with a slew of coverage from backyard wrestling stars around the world. Thursday night, I'm here with ADT. ADT is the brand new AWL heavyweight champion of the world in Alabama. And Friday night, to take his place into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the ROEW champion of the world, the man that holds not one, but 2 victories over the destructive Jack Delta. He is the good guy, CJ Black. He makes his long-awaited return to Sportswire Radio, and he takes his place in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But until then, if you're here, make sure you hit that sub button for us on YouTube. Also, check us out on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. We're on Twitch now. We have a lot of new followers out there. So if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much for your support. But we are here right now with the Psychotic Freak. And Chris Aruda wants to comment and saying putting Scary Terry against Freak was on purpose to see where Scary Terry stacks up against our roster.
And
You
lost.
still don't agree.
And lost. And still put him in.
And we showed it live for the world. And you know what? I don't necessarily know if that was a good thing for Mr. Scary Terry and Mr. Aruda, because Mr. Aruda got a chance to showcase a loss. Usually you want to showcase a win, and
Yep.
you didn't get a chance to do that. So obviously that's, some things there. I did want to talk to you and kind of almost going into where we'll go from here. But before I do that, what are your goals this season? Obviously, I know you want to get back championship gold. Obviously, the World Heavyweight Championship has been something that's kind of been, kind of just out of your grasp. You've obviously wanted more gold. But now that you got this victory and we're in the season now, and what are your goals coming up here this year?
I think the big one is the MPBS, and to become interstate champion. I've been champion every single year. I was United States champion my first year. I was I was interstate champion my second year, and hopefully again to be interstate champion my third year. Yeah. So I would say the goal is to MPBS and become interstate champion.
Why has PBS been such a thorn in your eyes, or a thorn in your side? We've heard Wilster's side of it here, but why has PBS been such a thorn in your side over the years?
I think the big thing is I wasn't up to the Wilster standards, but I think I was doing much better than Will ever gave me credit for.
Well, you brought up the fact that you've had more success after you left the Wilster. You've made that point, and you've tried to put that out there for others.
Yep. Even though I was at the time the longest reigning United States champion in LBYW until Justice broke the record. And I don't know why Will doesn't give me the credit. I mean, yes, I left him. He quote unquote says he threw me in the trash. I beat him. In a very good, entertaining match.
I've watched it. Yes, it was very entertaining.
It was, so I don't understand why Will has held this grudge for a year and a half.
Do you think that, I want to make this point. I obviously want to get to Mrs. Aruda. Let's put it that way. But do you think that older guys, let's put it this way, the old men like Aruda and Wilster, they've been jealous of the size, the ability that you have, and that maybe that's why you've had so many problems with them over the years, is that these guys deep down don't have the skills that you have. They don't have the size, and that they're jealous because they know that on their best day that they can't beat you?
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I don't think Chris Aruda in our second match when he beat me for the title faced the Freak. I think he faced Chris. Chris and Freak are two completely different characters. Haunted Hell Force 1, he faced the Freak, lost. Wilster faced the Freak and lost. Anyone that faces Chris pretty much it's a guaranteed victory. But if they face the Freak, they'll lose.
So you're telling us that when you lose an LBYW, we're not getting a Psychotic Freak for the most part. We're getting the average Chris, but when we get Psychotic Freak, you win. I mean, at the end of the day, we've seen more of the Freak than Chris.
Yeah,
So how do you channel always being the Freak?
it's something that really has to tick me off. Um, Going into, we'll go back to the Haunted Hellfest. I mean, they threw me in jail after I broke into Will's place and beat him up.
And you were in a prison match in the past as well. I mean, you've done that. I mean, you're in a prison yard match. I mean, I went back. I actually did go back and watch that. You were in a prison yard match. I mean, it's certainly not everybody gets to be in a prison yard match. I mean, maybe some people would like to throw me in prison for some of my commentary on Sportzwire, but you were actually figuratively and literally in a prison yard match.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Obviously interesting stuff. And if you want to follow Legendary Backyard Wrestling, we have them on Instagram. So while we kind of try to, regain our foothold there, this is their page. Check them out. Obviously, all great things here are coming up, and you can see some of the stuff here. Obviously, Scary Terry. Yes, Scary Terry. But you can also see some other people here, like the Psychotic Freak is here, and you can see him here. Obviously, this is from Throwdown 8, his big victory. And, Psychotic Freak has obviously been having his own problems with Showtime and PBS, which he talked about. And we're going to certainly come back to that as well. But also want to say hello to Big Tex. Yes, I was doing commentary. And as I offer to anybody out there, if you want me to call one of your matches, if you like the job I did, let me know. And I might do that for you here live on Sportswire Radio. So if that's something you think we'll do that here more often. But, we spoke a little bit about PBS, right? PBS has been a burning topic. It's been a burning thorn. It's been a thorn in your side. It's, they've been certainly giving you a lot of problems. And there's one person in particular that's been doing the bidding of the Wilster, and that's Nate Dogg, the man that you have certainly forever seemed to be linked at. And Nate Dogg beat you once again for the Interstate Championship in the previous episode at 42, and you've got him coming up at Golden Ticket, and, I know that this time you're really looking to even the score. So, I mean, what do you want to say about Nate Dogg? Because I know that this is something that, you might have your issues with Aruda, you might have your issues with the Wilster, but the Nate Dogg has really been the man that you've been forever linked with when it comes to in-ring competition.
Yeah, I'm tired of PBS. I'm tired of Nate Dogg. I'm tired of Wilster. They're pissing me off because they took the title from me. A title I should have never lost. So Nate Dogg, I don't think deserves to be championship. He was just given it, just like Terry was given the ladder match. It's kind of the same thing. Like, this one, it's not funny. I'm out for blood. If I could.
This is personal.
Yeah, I would put his head in the ground. I mean,
this is really personal. So wait a minute, you want to put his head in the ground? I do live across the street from a cemetery, so I mean, maybe I could pick out a plot for you. Is that what you're trying to tell us here live on Sportswire Radio? We are all Wrestling Matters, but this is really interesting what you just said. I mean, I've heard some interesting things lately on this platform. We've had one wrestler walk off the show that's in our Hall of Fame, but now you want to put Nate Dogg's head in the ground, basically. You want him 6 feet under. Is that what you're telling us? And
let me put it this way. I run a haunted house. It's in an abandoned hospital. If I could put him in there, lock it up, I would. Put him in the morgue, if you will. He's not coming out.
And you got to also be burned at the fact that Nate Dogg's got multiple championships. You got nothing right now. He's got the tag team title, and he's got your interstate championship. So you got to really be burned at that. I mean, that's got to bother you more than anything else, that he's got 2 championships, and he's also walking around with your championship, your interstate championship that meant so much to you.
Yeah, it is burning at me. I can't stand this. I'm tired of him.
You're tired of him?
I'm just tired. I'm tired of PBS. I'm tired of Will. And what do I got to lose at this point? Even if I lose, what do I got to lose?
I don't know. You tell us. I mean, I think that obviously, maybe could you lose your life? I mean, Wilster has wanted to. Ladies and gentlemen, did we just see what we just saw live on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters? It looks like the Psychotic Freak has been jumped from behind, and it's a masked man who's just brutally attacking Psychotic Freak. And Psychotic Freak, oh my God, Psychotic Freak has been thrown around all over the place. Somebody stop this! Oh my goodness, Psychotic Freak is down. Does that look like? I think, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like it's somebody with a hood. It's a hooded person, and we quite haven't seen who they are just yet. But this is certainly one for the ages on Sportswire Radio, and it's still happening. And Psychotic Freak is down for the count, and it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, do I think who I think it is? Wait a minute. No, we still don't know it. Psychotic Freak is down. He is out, and ladies and gentlemen. Is that who I think it is? Wait a minute. Is that wait. Is that one half of the LBYW Tag Team Champions and the current Interstate Champion Nate Dogg? Nate Dogg, what a way to make an entrance on Sportswire Radio. I think you heard enough and you broke into Psychotic Freak's house and he's down for the count, and maybe you're the one that put his head under the ground. And what do you have to say all about this, champ?
Yeah, talking all that crap. So, sick of all this shit he's talking about. So I broke in his house and beat him up.
Was a message sent? You heard enough and you couldn't take it anymore? You heard all night Psychotic Freak complaining about the general manager, Chris Ruda. Psychotic Freak complaining all night about PBS. Complaining all night about Scary Terry being the first person in the Golden Ticket ladder match. And especially all the things he recently just said about you. And it sounds like to me, Nate Dogg, you had enough. And like I said, it didn't matter about Chris Aruda. It didn't matter about what happened with Scary Terry. It didn't matter about PBS and the Wilster, certainly, or even Showtime. You decided that enough was enough, and you weren't going to take it. And you decided to take it to Psychotic Freak like nobody else has done. And maybe you gave him, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, a dose of his own medicine, champ.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know what? I've got some news here because there are people commenting, and stay with us here because Psychotic Freak, he might need some help. Somebody might want to call 911. Maybe not call 911 because you're there. And I don't think if I'm an ER, I don't think if I'm near an ambulance bed to go give one, I would certainly head back over to the next town over in North Dakota. Because looking at what Nate Dogg did tonight, I would certainly want to be as far away from the house of Psychotic Freak. Because with Nate Dogg here and everything that he's looking at, look at this man. Look at the sadistic man that he is right now. I mean, certainly forget about medical attention. Forget about help. Psychotic Freak, maybe you shouldn't bother to show up in this match here coming up at Golden Ticket. But I've got some comments here. First of all, our buddy Michael Christian, who was also witness to an attack, not by him on Saturday's show, by another person. But he says, hello, Rev, Mr. Freak. We may need to have a conversation. But, well, there's no conversations right now with the Psychotic Freak because right now he's down for the count and he might be down for 1,000. And management has said what we've all just said here. What the Jesus is going on here? What in the hell has happened in God's name? And it looks like our general manager has commented and he says, okay, I got something planned for these two. Are you concerned about that right now? Or do you even think that the Psychotic Freak will even make it to Golden Ticket?
I don't think so, man. That's that beat up right here. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he ain't getting up anytime soon. He is down for the count. He is out, and it looks like here even Mrs. Aruda wants to say, boo, Nate Dogg, you suck. But you know what? I think it's safe to say, before I let you have a few more thoughts before, well, we sign off and allow Psychotic Freak to maybe have his last rites, that you had enough and you gave Psychotic Freak maybe the worst taste of his own medicine anybody could give. And, you know, what do you want to say to the audience right now watching and listening? We have 42 people out there right now watching. What do you want to say to those people?
All I got to say is that Golden Ticket, I am retaining my interstate title. And Chris is Psychotic Freak. It ain't going to stop me at all. And all the haters could go away, you know.
Do you think that Psychotic Freak should just stay down for the rest of the count and not decide to show up to Golden Ticket, and that maybe that would be the best advice suited for him?
Yeah, he should not show up at all. He just needs to, stay home or just stay in the hospital the whole time he's there.
Will you visit him?
No.
So we should say maybe we should get last rites out there. I'm a reverend actually after all, so I could maybe perform those last rites actually. So if that's something you actually might want, we could maybe do that live on Sportswire Radio. So basically, Psychotic Freak, if he knows what's best for him, shouldn't show up to Golden Ticket and should just stay down, correct?
Correct.
What do you want to say as being a double champion in LBYW? What does that mean to you?
It feels really amazing. I mean that I'm really honestly the top guy in that company right now. So,
and you're going to certainly have something to say, I'm sure, for your opponents coming up in your match for your other championship, right? Coming up, you're going to say something with them. You're going to have a lot to say with Just Ice and Ragnarok. You're going to certainly, put it to them. And maybe this is an early warning for Just Ice and Ragnarok, right?
Yeah, it's an early warning for them. Or they gotta say they should just run away too, because I'm retaining those titles too as well.
Anything you want to say to the Wilster?
My guy.
Yeah. So Wilster is doing a great job, and and obviously Psychotic Freak has no idea what he's talking about. Then obviously would you want to say he's a crybaby and a whiner?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that who
sure.
Chris is? That who Chris really is? A whiner and a complainer, and that this Psychotic Freak, it's all a lie, it's all an act. Is that what you're telling us today after what you did? Because for those that are watching this right now and just tuning in before we sign off, this was unplanned and unprovoked attack by one half of the LBYW Tag Team Champions and the current Interstate Champion, Nate Dogg. He attacked senselessly. He senselessly attacked the man that he's going to see at Golden Ticket, Psychotic Freak, and he gave him, as a matter of fact, a psychotic-like beating, one that you might have seen in movies like Cape Fear, Silence of the Lambs, and if Psychotic Freak maybe knows what's best for him, he maybe wouldn't even bother showing up, and that's certainly what Nate Dogg has done. He certainly gave...
He ain't gonna show up at all. Not what I just did to him.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just say you win the match by forfeit then, and we'll just move on, and you can just focus on that tag team match. And top guy now, that's funny. Well, you know what? You did something that very few people have done on this platform tonight. You went out and attacked a man in his spot. You senselessly and out of nowhere, whether it was provoked or unprovoked, you beat a man senselessly that I don't even know if he's ever going to get up again. Listen, I don't know the way you attacked him. Listen, I thought it was a robber. I thought it was we didn't realize it was you because we saw that attack and we couldn't even get an angle, a camera shot. That's really, how much of an attack I think is putting you off guard here. And that just shows you, like I said, if you're the ambulance out there, EMTs in North Dakota, don't show up to Psychotic Freak's house because looking at Nate Dogg right now, this man, I would just say, you know what? Go to somebody else's town. You know what? Psychotic Freak, he might have been in prison yard matches. He might have had his own matches and his own wars. But I would say, you know what? This is nothing to what he saw at Scary Terry. This is nothing like what he saw at LBYW 42. This is nothing from what he saw from Napalm. At his own very much disposal for his own advice, if he could listen to anybody out there, maybe, just maybe, he shouldn't show up. And it looks like somebody here is happy with what you did because, hey, it's Nate Dogg. And I think I know who this person is, but apparently they seem to be real happy. And for this person that just tuned in, just to recap it before we say goodnight, Psychotic Freak was being interviewed here live on Sportswire Radio, and he was speaking about his opinions on PBS and Nate Dogg, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a hooded man, we thought was a masked man originally, came from behind and senselessly attacked and brutalized Psychotic Freak in one of the worst attacks in Sportswire Radio history. And that was at the hands right now of the man we're watching. Wasn't even advertised here. But apparently he was so provoked throughout the evening about what Nate Dogg had to say, he had to jump in and give Psychotic Freak a psychotic beating that he'll probably remember for the rest of his life. So that's what happened here just now. Champ,
yes, sir.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we certainly say goodnight on this interview and certainly say maybe eventually one day Psychotic Freak will get that medical attention?
No, I think he's just be in the casket underground, 6 feet deep. So,
well, I do live
he
near a
gone.
cemetery across the street, so if you need a plot, I suppose I could probably help you. That I shouldn't advise that here on the air. I am a reverend after all, but apparently his daddy will guaranteed be putting out a hit. So that's what somebody thinks. I'm not quite sure if that's something we can confirm or deny, but I'm going to certainly confirm that if you haven't yet got a chance, go back and watch the tape. And if you haven't watched the tape, we'll make sure you see it live on Instagram and Facebook very, very shortly. So I promise you, this is going to be one for the ages. Well, obviously, we're going to certainly say thank you for tuning in, champ. Thank you for, I guess,
Thank
coming
you.
in and just obviously putting out a hit job, you might want to say, almost a hate crime like assault on the Psychotic Freak. And if you want to follow one more time, Legendary Backyard Wrestling, you can do that here on Instagram. Check out more of them. They're also a part of the Backyard Wrestling Nexus. They're also here on YouTube. So if you want to check them out, you can do that on YouTube as well. We're going to put that link up here for everybody in the description. That's here on YouTube. That is LBYW. You can check them out here on their YouTube channel, which we pulled up here just now. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here. And we were originally here with the Psychotic Freak, but we were uninterrupted, by the way, from the reigning defending interstate champion and one half of the LBYW tag team champions, Nate Dogg, as he had had enough. He had had enough after what Psychotic Freak had said all evening about PBS, the Wilster, and even general manager Chris Aruda, Scary Terry, and he decided to take matters into his own hands in one of the most heinous attacks, one of the most heinous assaults in Sportswire radio history, and certainly leaving Psychotic Freak down and out and wondering what is left of Psychotic Freak and what is the future of Psychotic Freak. So you'll certainly want to watch that here and more. And if you are on Sportswire Radio for the first time, please hit that sub button for us if you want to see more things like this. If you like what you saw from us, just like you're following Legendary Backyard Wrestling, hit that button for us on YouTube, Sportswire Radio 6579. Check us out as well on sportswireradio.org via the Listen Live button. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'm going to say thank you, Nate Dogg, for coming, because I don't want you to come to my house next. I don't want you to beat me up and nearly kill me, because you probably know where I live, and a lot of people know where I live on Sportswire Radio. So you definitely want to make sure that we don't have that. And yes, good night. And we'll certainly leave you on that note, but certainly tune in to Legendary Backyard Wrestling on their YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook channels, because you'll want to see what's left of the Psychotic Freak after what we saw tonight. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. And I'll see everybody here tomorrow night to be announced for the guest. See everybody.